Thank you. Good evening, members. I'd like to open this meeting of the Strategy and Resources Committee on Thursday, the 6th of October 2022. My name is Councillor Sue White, and I'm the chairman of this committee. Members, we're streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Okay, agenda item 2, apologies for absence. I've got apologies for Councillor Siddle and Councillor Fluker. Do we have any others?
No, Chairman, that's all we have.
Thank you, Bernard. Okay, now we'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the minutes. Councillor Fluker's here. We don't need to. We'll cancel the apologies. Welcome, Councillor Fluker. Agenda item 3 is the minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of July 22, found on pages 5 to 14, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Durham.
That's me, yeah.
God, it's going to be one of those evenings, isn't it? Do any members wish to raise a matter? Yes.
Of accuracy.
Yes.
2 or 3 points. First of all, on page 7, item 165, the 5th bullet point, it says the council had to override the cost of any underruns. I think it should be underwrite overruns, shouldn't it?
Yeah, thank you for that one.
Secondly, item 166, para 2, it should be commenced, not commented.
Okay, are they noted?
And thirdly, Madam Chairman, can I go back to that previous minute 165?
Yeah.
I think it
starts at page 7.
The last bullet point, just on page 8. Mention of if we're successful, this was with the major Hythe-related bid. This may provide an opportunity for discussion with barge owners, heritage opposite, and may open other opportunities to fund a more regular dredging programme. Do you consider that as an accurate record of that part of discussion?
I can't find which page is that one on?
Top of page 8.
Top of page 8.
It's talking
the
about
last bullet point, or the first bullet point on page 8, this one, under the terms of the LUF dredging.
Mention of a possibility from sources that would enable regular dredging. I don't recall that myself, but
I know dredging was discussed.
I think it was.
It was definitely discussed, and I think it might have been a possibility. What we can do, we can listen to the recording and then change it if it needs to be changed.
Yes, I mean, I may not be recalling it properly, but I really wanted to see whether you thought it probably was.
I think it was mentioned, but I'm not sure of the actual wording of what we agreed. But I will look into that. Has anybody else got anything to raise? Can we agree those by assent? Thank you. Okay. Right, moving on to agenda item 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any? Councillor Lagan?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just declare a interest in being a previous barge owner because there's wharfage on the fees and charges scheduled tonight. I'm no longer an owner. I haven't had any correspondence with the barge owners for a while, but I feel I should disclose that.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Stamp? Councillor Channer? God.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Regarding agenda item, I can't see it now, number 11, I believe I'm declaring the right interest, Mr. Crouch on here, registrable interest, because I am a trustee of an almshouse charity. Now, there's no specific mention of that charity in that report. does refer to housing associations more, and even on the flow chart it doesn't mention almshouses, but on a certain page it does mention about housing associations and almshouses. So I do believe I can stay for that item, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
However, agenda item number 14, again, same topic thing regarding being a register of interest in terms of the almshouse charity. In the past, there has been, through a fund, we were involved in community-led housing. I may be aware of things in the past, and I'm not so clear of things in the future. So on that one, Madam Chairman, I've decided that I will leave the chamber, I think. And Mr Quelch wasn't available today, so that's what I feel more comfortable doing on agenda item 14. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Channer. Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Shaughnessy?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I haven't got the right page, but Councillor Channer mentioning, housing associations, etc. I am a trustee of Maldon Housing Association, so perhaps I should mention that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, and if any of you feel that you need to leave the meeting, if something comes up that you're not happy with, you can either leave the meeting or just withdraw from the debate anyway, so that's absolutely fine. Okay, thank you, members. Agenda item 5, which is public participation. I don't think we have any, do we, Berna?
No, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, right, so moving on to the agenda items, and the first agenda item is agenda item 6, to report on the Council's investment activity for the financial year of 21-22 in accordance with the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy Treasury Management Code, CIPFA's TM Code, and the Council's Treasury Management Policy and Treasury Management Practices. There is a recommendation that members review the Treasury Outturn report for compliance purposes. Officer Mr Leslie to present the report. And do I have somebody to second that we note this report before we go ahead with the report and the discussion? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Okay, right, over to Mr Leslie.
Okay. The report looks back at the Treasury management performance for last year. The table on page 16 at paragraph 3.7.3 details the type of investments held and amounts at year end. There was a higher balance invested than usual at that point, due in part to government money from COVID initiatives that were in the process of being distributed. The Council's long-term investments provided the highest returns through that period and contributed to the higher than budgeted income. The returns from the different investment types are on page 18, paragraph 3.8.1. The prudential indicators were complied with and are at Appendix 2 with further details, with an exception around the Council's current account. Investment limits for banks are £2 million, or were at the time. However, due to the nature of current accounts, in that it is not a fixed investment like the others, for example, if government deposits a large COVID grant payment, there were occasions when the limit was exceeded. This was highlighted to members previously, and the approved changes as a result of that are detailed on page 19. Paragraph 3.9.2, when that was brought to members previously. This will help to assist manage that. I still recommend a limit is put on the current account despite its nature to help ensure good management of cash. Appendix 2 also shows the Council has no capital borrowing.
Okay, are there any other officers who wish to comment? Nope, in that case this has... Oh, no, before we go to members, just know if there's any officers wanted to add anything, but no, that's good. Thank you, Mr Leslie. Right, Councillor Thompson's already seconded this, so now I'd like to open the floor for members for today. Okay, Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry that I was late, and if anyone noticed, I also apologise for being inappropriately addressed when I came in the chamber. I'll let you work it out. Just a couple, 3 points that I'd like to bring up with the 151 officer. Paragraph 3.7.3. I've looked back some of the previous agenda items that have covered this off over the previous years, and they've although I presume we've had deposits with local authorities, they were never actually specifically mentioned. So I see that that's in there. I think everybody's aware that we do have £2 million on deposit or loan to Thurrock, and I think we all know what the position is with Thurrock. And I'm grateful from some of the comments that I've received from Essex County Council regarding that position, and I think we should all take a huge amount of comfort in the email that the leader sent out, where she assured us that the money was going to be repaid on the 22nd, and I look forward to having that confirmed. But I wonder if the 151 officer could confirm what other local authorities we're currently loaning money to, and perhaps that's a fairly quick answer, I guess. And then I'd like to go to paragraph 3.7.6. This is a great return on this £5 million, and I just wondered whether or not we've actually drawn down any of the profits on that, or whether or not the 177 is actually sitting with the 5 million. And finally, Chairman, we've had conversations about this before in the past. 3.9.1. Can I commend the 151 officer and his team for the reactionary times with dealing with these matters, because I think that's very, very good. Thank you.
Right. Before I hand over to Ms Leslie, I'd just like to say that it has been reported in the press that Thurrock Council have just received £850 million funding to cover the debts that they owe. So if the press is to believe, that's all good to go. But okay, Mr Leslie, so it's 3.7.3 first of all.
3.7.3, yes, list of the local authorities. Happy to circulate that. I assume that's the local authorities as of now, or is that year end?
I think it'd be interesting to see both, actually.
Have both, absolutely. We can do that. We'll circulate that. Thank you very much. 3.7.6, the drawdown. Yeah, the investment income that always comes in. The capital amount will remain the same, or the amount we have invested. It will of course go up and down depending on the capital value, but we get the interest paid in from that side of it. And 3.9.1. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, and Councillor Channer.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Well, Councillor Fluke has already mentioned one thing I was going to mention about Thurrock. I'm also aware about other authorities, and I have seen a list, but I think Mr Leslie has just said that he will be sending around both lists to all members of this committee, so that's good. And indeed, I wanted to, just for Councillor Fluke and other members, to say I did send an email round, and I did check with Mr Leslie, and Councillor White's just highlighted what Thurrock have now got, and we will get our money repaid. I have checked that out with Mr Leslie. Regarding, again, the same areas that Councillor Fluke has gone on to, and I'm looking at 3.9.1 now myself, and I can appreciate all the good work that's been done to save, if you like, the same thing happening again. Can I just ask, though, and I do appreciate, and you drew attention yourself, Mr Leslie, to 3.9.2 to reduce the recurrence of these breaches and what the team have done, and great work. I'm assuming that we do know that that's working well, the action that has been taken, obviously, from what you said. And obviously, it's part of the system then that failed, I would think, or the process within the system that led to those incidences occurring in the first place. I can't recollect or said previously when you said this had been highlighted to committee. But really, it's just seeking assurances that everything now is working it should, and we've had no hiccups. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously the reasons and sort of action taken are detailed within that table. In terms of the nature of the account, yes, what the changes we've made will certainly help, and I think they're the right ones to make. And what I said is I don't propose removing a limit for that, because I think that helps focus and produce targets, and it will be reported to members where it does go over that as well. So I think that's absolutely helped. What I won't say is we won't see any more of it going over, because it's a current account. We can't guarantee what comes in and out. We don't have control. It's not a fixed term investment, and it's slightly unusual. It's a current account. We're not putting money out for a fixed amount. We don't necessarily have control about what people pay into our account. We're particularly if government pay large sums of grant in there from that side. But I think the fact that we've got a limit and that we'll report when that happens and the action taken is very helpful around that, and I encourage that. I don't know if Mr Porteous, perhaps Chair, might come in and just confirm the arrangements, appreciating we can't guarantee it won't occasionally go over.
Is Mr Porteous here? Are you there? Ben, isn't it? Oh.
Yes.
Yep, well done.
Good evening, Chairman, members and officers. Yes, I can confirm with Mr Leslie what Mr Leslie has said, that increasing the limit for the current account certainly has helped to operate within those limits, although there are still very occasional times when grant money and whatnot does come in that may exceed it, but we'll see a far lower list than you see here for the next 6 months.
Thank you, Lance.
Thank you.
Does anybody else? Oh, Councillor Swain?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. 3.8.1 shows the returns we get on certain investment funds, 3.48, 3.58, and obviously virtually nothing on the money market funds. But also somewhere I seem to remember seeing that we got 16% return on some particular investments. Is the very low average due to having to hold a lot in money market funds because of these large amounts that come in from government and have to go out at short notice? Or is there any scope for putting some of the money market funds into more interest earning investment?
So the low rates of return that you're seeing in the shorter term investments are really just due to the position of the interest rate at the time. Obviously back then it was 0.1%, so you put money in the bank, you're not going to get anything. What we obviously balance is the risk and return. So I don't believe we're receiving 16% on that, anything in that side. We've gone for low risk investments such as the money market funds, so they're spread portfolio. So it's not that we would have to have a change in investment policy, I think, to start investing in perhaps more high level returns, where we are investing perhaps more in the share market, etc. Around that. So the low returns are purely due to the interest rate that was prevalent at the time.
Okay, Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to ask a really silly question, most probably, and please forgive me if everybody knows this, but I don't. Where we've got the 2 million bank counterpart limit, now is that the bank's limit, or is that a limit that we've set? And if it's the bank's limit, did we put ourselves at risk? Were we insured when we went over that? Thank you.
That's our limit that we're set as part of the Treasury management strategy, and limits on that. Obviously, that's part of our risk management to ensure that we don't have high exposure to certain areas. So therefore, we manage the limit that we place. So within individual banks, we have a limit of £2 million with each.
Okay, Councillor Channer.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. I wonder if I might just inquire at this point with Mr Leslie. All members should have received an email regarding Treasury management training, and that is due to take place. I would very much hope so, that members of this committee have signed up to that, and other members too, because that is something that we should be doing as councillors. So I could just ask Mr Leslie, at the moment, are you receiving quite a good sign up to that training? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the training takes place on Monday evening for members, and will be delivered by our Treasury management advisors. In terms of that side of it, we have received a good number of acceptances from various members at the moment, probably about 10 just as a quick count, but obviously the more we can attract, the better.
Madam Chairman, I suggest perhaps a reminder goes out to members. I think that might be helpful, and say how important it is, bearing in mind this report and other matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fluker.
Just on that one, Chairman, there was a time when we never used to have these type of things on a Monday night because they clash with parish council meetings. So, I'll actually be at Southminster from about 7:30 onwards. So it's an important meeting. So I'm afraid it'll have to be sovereign to this. But I just hope that, bearing in mind less than a third of members have said that they're going, that this will be available as a recording afterwards.
Yep, we've had about 13 responses. Hopefully go up, and I will definitely send a reminder. In terms of the recording, unfortunately, we're not allowed to record that. I will ask for any slides, etc., from our advisors as well, but they do not allow that to be recorded.
Okay, right. Now, this report has been noted. Can we agree this by assent?
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, well done, members. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7, which is Budgetary Control Report as at the 31st July 22. The purpose of the report is to provide the Strategy and Resources Committee with information in relation to financial performance over the period of April 21 to July 22, and that the committee notes the forecasted 22-23 financial position as at 31st July of this financial year. Okay, Mr. Leslie, over to you, please.
Thank you. So this report sets out the Council's forecast year-end budget position. The Council continues to be impacted financially from the pandemic and now from the cost of living crisis. Due to ongoing COVID pressures relating to refuge, leisure and tax collection rates, the budget was set with a £452,000 contribution from the General Fund Reserve. In addition to this, there were approved budget increases of £229,000, mainly relating to increased resources in the planning service, which took current budget contributions from the general fund from £452,000 to £681,000. Mainly due to higher than budgeted inflationary pay increases and lower leisure income, there is a forecast service budget overspend this year. This has been offset to an extent by increased income from recycling due to commodity prices and tonnage collected. Once improved tax collection rates and investment income has been taken into account, the budget variance is £108,000 overspend. This would reduce the general fund balance from 5.8 million to 5 million, still above the minimum recommended level of 2.6 million. A revised medium-term financial strategy and updates will be presented to the next S&R meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leslie. Now it's recommended that this report is noted. Do I have a seconder, please? Yeah. Councillor Thompson. Right, okay. Now this item is now open for debate. So members, do you have any questions? Councillor Swain?
Yes. The drop in the general fund of 0.8 million has qualifications that there were end of year pluses and minuses that would change that. Does Mr. Leslie have any inkling as to whether the balance of those is likely to increase or decrease that 800,000 gap?
Thank you. Yes, there will be changes as we go. Obviously, this is a sort of mid-yearish point now, to the best of our knowledge. As things transpire, we'll learn more, and certainly things are changing an awful lot at the moment. Do I get my crystal ball out and say what's happening? I think it's very difficult at the moment. I think there are some pressures emerging, and there's some other signs as well. I mean, interest rates are increasing, and I've obviously just had a report about our investment returns, and that would obviously have an impact on the amount of investments. But energy prices are going up, and inflation is a factor. So yes, I can pretty much guarantee change, I suppose.
Yes, it was a rather unfair question, I think, probably.
Any other members? Councillor Fluker?
The table in 4.2, I mean, that says to me that our original budget was 3.7 million and now it's 14.3 million. I'm sure I'm reading that right. So that sort of is a variance of 579. Presumably that was at the financial position at the 31st of July. So I just wonder what the financial position was now, and I appreciate the need for a crystal ball, but I think there's a lot of things that we know about based on what's been said at the finance working group. So I'd be interested to know what you're actually forecasting, and I know it's difficult for year end, and what you think the position is exactly now. Thank you.
So the table there, table 2, paragraph 4.2, has got the revenue commitments. That's the £350,000 that you see there. What happened at the end of the year, there was £350,000 put into a revenue commitments reserve. That reserve is for where there are still commitments, but we can't, for an accounting reasons, put them in the balance sheet and recognise them. So, for example, if a project has started, which had approved funding, but we haven't been able to spend all the money within the year, then that goes into the commitment reserve and carries forward. So what we're seeing with the 350 is, yes, the budget has increased, you're right, to 14.3 million, but 350 of that is due to reserve commitments which were put in last year to offset expenditure for this current year due to where projects were in motion or expenditure was delayed. So that's not an impact on the bottom line or a recurring item around that. In terms of the estimates, the finance working group side of it, it was similar to this, and certainly based on these figures coming forward. We've obviously doing some more work. Where we are doing some more work is around their leisure forecasting, which I think is still continuing to be around about the position reported, but that's going to be a major factor. I've mentioned interest rates as well, and that's obviously changing a lot, almost day by day. So hopefully we should receive some better news around our interest rates income from that, and we're monitoring on a very regular basis as well. It is our largest area, but the refuse budgets around that as well. So commodity prices and sensitivity around that, they are some of our biggest areas. The pay inflation still to be approved, but we have one union has accepted and 2 are now out to vote on that with their members. So we'll have to wait and see how that changed, but that's obviously a big variance, and of course we will continue to update as changes come in.
Councillor, if you can come back.
Yeah, thanks. I will just come back briefly on that because I looked at the figures that were reported to the working group, and I appreciate they are very much draft, but they did seem to be a long way away from what you've put here, and I appreciate that this is based on what happened in July. So I'll refer back to those, and hopefully when that group meets again, we might understand better what the true position is of this council in relation to what I call an overspend, or we've exceeded our budget by. And Chairman, just to change very quickly, and I'm on page 32, 5.2 in particular, members' allowances. I wonder what was included in members' allowances, because if we just took the basic allowance, which is roughly, I think someone said they're 4,000 or 5,000 quid, I don't know, but if we take the upper limit 5,000, that's 155,000 for 31 members, and we've not had 31 members all the time. So I just really wondered where we got this 244 from. What's in member? I think what I'm asking is what's actually in the members' allowance budget heading, because a members' allowance is exactly that. It's not expenses. It's not the money paid to the leader or the chairman as a fund. That's a completely different thing altogether.
So the members' allowance, obviously that's the basic members' allowance, and also the special responsibility allowance that comes in there. Side of it, and there's also factored in a forecast of a 4% increase in members' allowance as well, due to the inflationary rise that occurs with members' allowance each year, which is forecast but to be confirmed at the moment.
Come back.
I don't understand the figure. So if we put in, I think the chairman of the committees get an extra allowance, so that's another 15 grand, and I suppose there's one for the chairman, and then the leader gets a multiple, I think, of about 2 point something or other. But that's still quite a lot short of, if we add it all together, it's still a little bit short. So, perhaps you drill into it and let us know by email. Yeah, thanks, cheers.
Thank you. Councillor Channer?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is on that subject, actually. I'm aware that the independent panel, we have an independent panel historically that's required to meet, and I'm aware that independent panel did meet recently. In fact, I think all members were approached and asking about various questions to do with various elements to help inform the panel or whatever else they work. They do. I wonder, can I just be informed, Madam Chairman, what the route is now for that sort of exercise having been completed, and perhaps where members can be aware of the outcomes of that, because normally I think it is reported and recommendations come forward. So I wonder if Mr. Leslie could perhaps just give some information regarding that. Might be helpful.
Thank you. There's a report going to Council in November, which should outline all those points and take to members for a decision around allowances going forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leslie.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Nope. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'd like to call that the vote be noted. Can we agree by assent? Oh, yeah. Yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Right, moving on, we have got agenda item 8, which is fees and charges policies for 23 and 24. The purpose of the report is to review the fees and charges policies that have been put forward by officers prior to the approval of the 23-24 budget and updated medium-term financial strategy. The detailed schedule of fees and charges will be reviewed based on the policy decisions, and the committee will recommend the actual 23-24 fees and charges to Council during the next cycle of meetings. The 23-24 income budgets will be based on the recommended policy, and there's a recommendation to the Council that the 2023-24 fees and charges policies Appendix A be approved. So over to Mr. Leslie again. Okay. It's your night tonight, Chris.
Thank you, Jim. The fees and changes policy sets out the direction of travel for preparing the detailed fees and charges list, which will come to members for approval and ultimately sets what the charges will be. The table on page 36 at paragraph 3.3 sets out the proposed changes to last year's policy.
Okay, right. It's recommended that this report is agreed. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Councillor Durham. Okay, members, this report is now open for debate. So who'd like to start me off? Or does everybody agree them as is? Ah, Councillor Lagan. Just sneaked in. I was thinking that was the first time ever we had no questions on the report. Okay, Councillor Lagan.
There's a few things. There's actually a few this time, some questions and also some thoughts that members may take in before carte blanching and agreeing this. The first one is on off-street car parking. It's on page 37 in the table. I'm concerned where the recommendation is remove free parking on bank holidays. The concern is if we're trying to stimulate people to attend towns and recreational facilities, free parking can actually help. And I'm sure that's not going to generate thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pounds. So I have a concern that removing that puts more financial pressure on residents attending. The second one is Maldon Promenade car parking. And the bit that it says aim for overall, the addition is aim for maximum cost recovery for Promenade Park, with car parking being the key contributor. That's going to be, can someone explain what maximum cost recovery and where the gap is, and that projected is going to be made up by doing that? Shall I just go for it? I've only got a couple more. They're only small bits, so. The other one is down on service delivery, page 38. It talks about commercial services box office, and it says in the comment box there, it says, and this is just for my information, Director of Service Strategy in conjunction with the Chairman of Community Services Committee I'm remiss, I don't know who that is.
That's this committee
Is
now.
that-
It used to be CS. Yeah.
Okay, so we probably want to change that because I've
Yeah.
spent a lot of my
Well
life that I ain't
spotted.
going to get back looking for that. And finally, which you would very much expect, river wharfage. I thought that when we discussed this last year that it was going to be a CPI inflation rate for the next 2 years, and then it will be reviewed, rather than what this recommendation is over 3 years removing the concession fully. So I'll stop there, but I would like to request come back in a second, if I may.
I thought we agreed at committee it can be moved after 3 years. Yeah, we definitely discussed it, didn't we? Yeah.
I think it can be revisited
Mm.
now with
Yeah, please. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So, car parking, maximum cost recovery. So I think it's taking into account that actually we need to ensure that all the costs for the area are covered in terms of actually what that means in terms of detailed fees and charges coming through. That will be part of the report that that comes in to members next, so they can see what the actually uplift proposed are. I think the strategy, the policy is that actually it does do that cost recovery side of it around those principles, and that's really what it's saying, appreciating that there's other aspects at play. In terms of the box office one, the committee, yes, thank you. I thought we had changed that, but thank you for spotting that, because that actually hasn't changed. And in terms of the wharfage side of it, that's obviously something that could be considered by members at committee when they set it each year. I think may be corrected, but I think the intention was it was coming back with the concessions to phase it out in future. But obviously, it's a member decision which they can make each year around that.
Just thank you. Firstly, the costs. I certainly won't support that cost increasing without the details. So I would suggest that gets deferred, because how can we look at what that makeup of costs actually is until we know what that shortfall is and how that's calculated to suit that. How much is the car parking on the prom per day for a full day's charge at the moment? No, I know that, and then I've deliberately asked that question.
I don't know. It's with a detailed list of fees and charges, and that may be where the question.
It's £8.50. So it's £8.50. And again, if we're going to do stuff like that, I think we need to look creatively about things like this, about car parking charges for our assets. And I've said this several times, that why don't we look at an opportunity of actually increasing that cost, but have a discount card like a Maldon card for Maldon residents who use the Maldon facilities and the Burnham, if you want to go down that route. They give us Southminster too, yeah, anywhere you like, you know, where people come. The jewel in the crown is Maldon for tourism, isn't it? So you know, I think we, rather than carte blanche, well, it is. You've all got lovely villages, and I love the villages, but people come to the town, you know.
I have to, as chairman, I have to jump in and say I'm very sorry, but Maldon district as a whole is a jewel in the crown, not only of Essex but of the whole country. We love our district. Anyway, sorry, Councillor Lagan.
We're talking of fees and charges here, so I'm just trying to make a point, and I know that. I think we need to look creatively at that. I don't think we should just go, you know, we look at up in the charges. So I think why can't we do more, is my opinion. But there's maybe an opportunity to generate more revenue. So that's the key thing. And I'm with wharfage. I'd like that to be deferred, because we know the challenges that the barge owners have. And what really interested me was the current policy, the commentary that was in there: set fees to complete with alternative berthing facilities on the East Coast. There are none. The only thing is Mistley, which doesn't take commercial vessels anymore. So we have none. So we are unique in that respect. So I think what we've done is looked at supporting them, which I think the owners and the people who run their business have been very grateful for in very turbulent times. So I would say that this gets amended, the proposed concession amended to the next 2 years, that we apply rate of inflation, the increase to those wharfage charges, because inflation's gone up and they should pay and they want to pay. And I think that's what we agreed, and that's what went to full council last time. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there.
Right, thank you. Now, Mr. Lizzie can answer part of it, but we have just discussed that, and as we both thought, the detail comes back at the next meeting and we discuss the detail. This is just the principle of charges. Then we drill down into the detail of what detail goes into any changes to the fees at the next meeting, but I'll get Mr. Leslie to explain in a better fashion.
Sorry, you can't vote on that then. You cannot, because it's the wrong way round. You should have the detail to inform the decision to be able to say yay or nay and have an options paper.
So what the policy sets out is a strategic direction of travel, and the principle around the car park being actually its cost recovery side of it. I think you raised some very good points about actually how do we implement that policy, that strategy about cost recovery. You've listed a number of options, and that's where it would come back and say, actually, based on that principle, here's what we're proposing to do, and then it can be voted on in terms of the detailed side of it. I think at the moment, it's the high level direction. Do we want that? Where we're looking to do cost recovery, and then it's okay, so how do we go about doing that? And I think that's why this is coming first, and then the detail, rather than the other way around. So there'll be an opportunity to do that with the detail side of it.
And we agree.
I understand the concept of that, but I don't feel comfortable in voting for something that I don't have, because at the moment, if I say that, I'm going, yes, we're going to look for maximum recovery.
Yeah, but so this is only a proposal. Right, Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm on. Right. Oh, yes, that light turns on. So, I think my overarching comment about this is, and I just want to mention this working group again, because we are looking at fees and charges in a massive amount of depth, and we're drilling into all sorts of things, and there's been talk about whether things should be brought forward. I mean, I'm beginning to think now that we seem to be completely out of sequence with how we're moving with working groups, with committee meetings and council. There's so much more is going on in that working group, which, I know we're all tied for time, but, it would have been so much better if we'd had some of that stuff reported here tonight under P&C, so that we could, discuss it. And a lot of it impacts on what Councillor Lagan says, and I think a lot of it would probably answer his questions. I'm almost saying, and I know you hate the word, but I mean, it's almost as though we should have another meeting of this committee just to go through what the working group are talking about, so that we really can give the officers some kind of a steer. I think that's really important. I think as far as parking's concerned, I mean, it's really, really difficult to get parking spaces at Maldon at certain times of the day, so I always think that if we're oversubscribed, there's room for movement. I understand the arguments for the bank holidays, but we've known before, and we have done the work, that when you offer free parking in Maldon town centre car parks, invariably all that happens is local residents take advantage of it, and to give weight to that argument, you've only got to look in the car park tonight, because when I arrived, I saw all those cars and I thought, I bet I know what this is all about.
Football.
Well, it's not. I thought there's going to be a huge amount of people here tonight. The car park's packed. And look, the wharfage thing is a difficult one, but, I think, basing my thoughts around what you said about the Promenade Park parking costs, I think we need to bring forward the information about how much we're spending on the wharf at the moment. I know we can look at comparable costs and everything else. I mean, all businesses are under pressure. I mean, we've just started to release that pressure as we've gone into a lot more pressure. So we appreciate that. I don't think it would be a good idea to link it to inflation, because I think my dear friend, the member from Maldon, may well end up getting keel-hauled over the next 2 years, because I think, we're potentially at 10% this year and 12% the next year. I do, in the back of my mind, do sort of remember something about an index linking, but we really mustn't positively discriminate against businesses. Everybody is under pressure. I know the historic importance, but we've got to be very, very careful of just identify certain businesses and support them. But I think it's a hard recommendation to accept, although I think the principles of it I do, but maybe Chairman, do you mind if I call you Chairman, by the way? Oh, you were in America at the time, weren't you, when we had this rather interesting... Anyway, I'm sure after all these years, Councillor White, you're happy for me to refer you to as
You can refer to me any way you like.
So anyway, Chairman, so I mean, it might be an idea, just so that we can get this to council, is to say that, you know, we agree in principle subject to the officers providing the background information on these particular areas, and then we can debate it at council. You know, I feel that that would be supported in the round. Thank you.
Yeah, and just before I come to Councillor Channer, I would say that I'd like to thank Councillor Swain for taking over the running of the Working Finance Group. But I do think that if we can organise it, that an in-person meeting to go through in depth might actually work well, but obviously this depends on officers' time. But I think if we can organise it, I'd certainly like to see another meeting where we could drill down on the wharfage. I don't want discrimination anyway, positive or negative. That's something we can't do. We have to be impartial. And I would like to see if we can organise this. Obviously, it's going to take quite a lot of work because I think sometimes you can get more achieved at an in-person meeting. But obviously, it's down to directors and their time. But that's something I'd like to see going ahead. Right, Councillor Channer. Yeah, or hybrid, yeah, whatever we can do. But obviously, it's officers, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I think at the beginning you said Chairman, actually, with the Chairman of the committee, so perhaps I should just say Chairman. Regarding the matter we're talking about, and the recommendation is that this has to go to Council anyway. So I just ask a question because it did come up at the working group Councillor Fluke is referring to, about we felt all the detail from that discussion should actually be presented to all members, and that's an opportunity there. Or are we saying that we need now another round of meetings as well before we get to the point where we can talk about the income, etc.? This is the policy area, and you know, from last year we did the same. There's something in the back of my mind, and I'm not sure if it was the wharfage, but I thought we did agree to have a meeting with the barge owners over something, and I'm sure that came into the round of meetings.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was explicitly on just on the wharfage. There was certainly somewhere where I think there was something said there ought to be some dialogue with the barge owners directly.
Yeah. I think the thing is with COVID, this was all quite a long time ago. So if members would indulge me, I'd like to go back to officers and see what we can organise before either the next council
I
comes
think
in
it was last year,
or the
Madam
next
Chairman.
strategy and
I think it was
resources.
last year we had
Yeah,
that.
so we can move forward. Councillor Lagan.
Just thank you, Chair. I know it's a difficult thing, but meetings have actually taken place and conversations have spoken with them. And that's great. But I don't mind being keel-hauled. I'm strange like that. But when you get 2 hours a tide, didn't you? So yeah, it's a lot of money for 2 hours window. But what the point I'm trying to make is we had a decision last year where we said we would do, and whatever inflation is, that's the risk. So inflation being 10% at the moment, if it goes up by 10% next year and it goes up by 12% the year after, that was what basically was agreed by the committee to go forward. So this is a change in the proposed concession.
Yes.
And I don't feel that this is the right thing to do. I think we should say, you know, if the others we're going to get the detail, I'm fine with that. But with this one, you talk about bringing tourists in. We know that people bring tourists in. Actually, Councillor Durham came on a barge once when I was hiring it with a person from America to show them around. So I think we need to be really careful and actually say within this paper, which most of it I'm quite comfortable with because I understand fees and charges, I'm not naive. But I think because of the unique nature, you know, it's like charging the crows at the Tower of London a tenner each to be there. You know, let's support where we can in an ethical way the businesses and the charities that operate down there currently, and then the increase is happening. The increase will happen, but that gives them the foresight to be able to gear their business plans to be able to survive. And that's what you're talking about with some of these things, and use the facility which actually is tying up against a concrete face and plugging into power, which they pay for anyway. So I think I would support most of this, but I would like to have the wharfage taken out and looked at separately, and I'd also like the wharfage to go back into inflationary increases over the next 2 years and then be looked at again in detail.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Well, I mean, as chair, I don't think we can take this out, and I've got a feeling something was hit there, but I would like you to trust me that we will look into this and come back to you, you know, with exactly what was in the minutes. I know you probably recall better than I do, to be fair, but we must be really careful that we do not discriminate, because there's going to be so many businesses. I mean, pubs, restaurants, we cannot, if we are going to offer one thing for one business, we are going to have to offer it to all businesses. So we have to be really, really mindful. I mean, I really support the barges. I love seeing the barges. You know, I've seen them since I was a child. But I think we should leave it in there with the caveat that we go back and we check exactly what was described and make sure that it's exactly right before it comes back to the next meeting. And then if we don't discuss it in a separate budget working group or finance working group, that we do discuss it at the next full council or the next S&R to drill down on what we're going to put in there. Councillor Channer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's not to do with this item, so can I ask a question on something else? Thank you.
Yeah, and then Councillor
And
Stamp.
it's just out of interest, and I appreciate this is probably going to be where we're just doing the policy setting and the income. But regarding, and it is on page 30, and it's car parking events, and I have no problem. It's just a minor change from what I can see, where we're changing head of paid service to be the director of service delivery. But can I just ask, my memory needs a bit of refreshing, because it does say it's done a set fee for specific events, and that's dependent on entrance fees and other things. Is there a formula for that, or how do we work that out? Because I find that quite interesting, because how do we project the numbers of people or cars or, you know, vehicles that might be required? How do we assess the size of event? I mean, I'd be interested to have background information on that. I'm not saying that's really to committee, but I just would like to know how well that's working. Bearing in mind it's been a policy and all we're doing is that minor change. Thank you.
Mr. Leslie or Mr. Holmes?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't actually think we've implemented that. I think it's a contingency to allow us to do that. There'll be a number of circumstances around an individual event which may suggest it's better to have a single figure. So it gives us the option to do it. But it would be based on an event-by-event basis to decide, you know, in terms of we'd know what an average income would look like, let's say, on a weekend in the summer versus an event. So that's all part of that calculation, but it's a contingency at the moment.
Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Swain and then Councillor Stamp. Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Firstly, on the wharfage, there is a statement in the following table about the policy being which should say, look at alternative charges as a comparator. The question is, of course, whether there are any near comparators. But to call rescinding the concessions a policy, I think, is a misnomer. We don't really have a proper policy towards the barges. Simply looking at wharfage charges and so on isn't really the whole. Isn't really a policy, adequate policy towards the barges. I mean, for instance, I think in some senses the wharfage is analogous to business rates for other businesses. As far as, so I think the whole question of developing a policy towards the barges is something quite separate, which we don't have really. All we have is a very broad statement in the policy sheet about comparing it with other. Even that is only really part of a policy. It's not adequate in itself, I don't think. As far as car parking is concerned in the from park, I see a bit of confusion here. I'm not, when you talk about maximum cost recovery, I'm not sure whether that's covering the costs of parking, having parking in the park. I had always thought that car parking charges were almost supposed to cover the costs of the park in total, and even produce some net revenue. That doesn't seem to be what the policy, what this document says. But you know, if that is the intention, that it is actually the charges, not just on the car parking, but overall, cover the costs and contribute to our resources, that's fine. But so when it talks about maximum cost recovery, we want more than that, really. And we're talking about the park, aren't we? Not just the costs of the car parking. The other point, I think this probably links with what Councillor Fluker was mentioning. the workings of the finance working group that you refer to seemed to be rather unfruitful, shall we say, maybe what. But I think the reason for it is twofold. One is there is a different attitude. There's a variation in attitude to this question of using reserves to fill up revenue deficits.
Actually, Councillor
some
Swain,
of us think it's a serious thing.
Madam Chairman, I think we're straying into...
and others take a much more relaxed view about it.
Councillor Swain,
That's one reason why I think...
P&C, Madam Chairman.
these are really good comments, but we need to move on with the agenda a little bit because time's cracking on.
It comes back to Councillor Fluker's point about the sort of things that discussed at the working group really need to come towards this committee.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm going to try and organise behind. But thank you for your comments. And I'm sorry to shut you a bit short. Right, Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually am not prepared to vote for the recommendation because it does say charges and policies at Appendix A to be approved. I'm looking at the proposed policies and I don't think there is enough meat on the bones or drilling down or the information to make an informed choice on those policies that are being changed. Councillor Fluke has raised in working groups, and I don't think this is private and confidential at all, that a parking strategy or a change in the parking could be addressed, which then might actually alleviate some of the issues on here anyway. And I certainly won't be, I don't agree with changing the parking rules for disabled people or whatever, or on bank holidays. I don't mean disabled people, but I'm sure it may come eventually on bank holidays. Because I don't think we've got enough information to back it up. So, Madam Chair, I'm afraid I won't be voting, I won't be agreeing with this recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, I'm getting concerned that, in theory, I think if we don't agree this recommendation to put this before council, it goes nowhere.
Exactly.
This means you have a huge problem with your budget. I think the important thing really is to note that if we agree to the proposal, but with all of the caveats that we've just said, then that will allow council to spend a couple of hours debating this.
Absolutely.
The alternative is we wait until the next meeting of this committee, get all the information, then it goes to council. And unfortunately, that clock is ticking down. And I think that's what I would propose, which is basically what I said before. That yes, we agree the recommendation, but subject to full and concise information being presented to council.
Yeah, I agree in that with entirely, Councillor Fluker, which is what I was suggesting that we do between now and full council. Right, I'm going to to the vote. Can we
Madam
have...
Chair, just one thing. I'm very disappointed, and because we have to rush something through that's not detailed, is not the right way of doing it.
But we're only talking a couple of items on the agenda.
Then the recommendation, if we take the process as the Constitution says, that we have a recommendation there, and we take that as set. It says that the charges policy Appendix A be approved. If we approve that policy with that there, we're approving what's in black and white in Appendix A. And
right.
Like Councillor Stamp, we shouldn't do that because we've asked too many questions now of the issues that are there.
Well, just quickly, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Channer. So Councillor Thompson first.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. I have to take the contrary view. I'm more with Councillor Fluker, I have to say, because this is a rector council. And no matter what we decide our rector council should be, council has every right and undoubtedly will
exactly
rearrange it
yes.
and make new decisions. So I think no matter how many times we go back to this, or whatever we decide,
yes,
council is sovereign and council will make the decision. So yeah, I'm with Councillor Fluker. I think I'd ask for all the caveats to be noted.
Absolutely, yes.
And then we have something to put to council
with more information.
And they can agree it or not. So on that basis, I am happy to support this recommendation, even though I might have reservations about some of it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. And just quickly, Councillor Channer.
Thank you. Well, Councillor Thompson's more or less said what I was going to come from, Madam Chairman. And you did actually say, you asked earlier for members to trust you on this and what you were going to do.
Absolutely.
And I do, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if we could have a show of hands, please, because obviously it's not
We
going
have
to
a
be
recorded vote, please.
Yeah, we can have a recorded vote. Bernard, could you do a recorded vote? Do we have a seconder? We're voting on the recommendations as they stand, with the caveat that we will either convene a meeting or get more information before it goes to council to drill down on the issues that have been raised with the wharfage and the parking. Sorry, Bernard, we can't hear you.
Bear with me for a second.
Perfect.
Just double checking with you, Chairman, that we're saying that it's the recommendation as stands, but with the addition from Councillor Fluker that full and concise information is provided to Council.
Yes.
Can we confirm, has that been seconded, please?
Has that been seconded? Councillor Durham has seconded it.
Madam Chair, it doesn't say what full advice is going to council.
Well, the report will be going to a council. These items will go to council, but what we're saying is the items that you have the concerns over, which is parking and wharfage, we will have either an interim meeting or a lot more information and drilling down before it's actually shown at full council.
You've said that, Madam Chair, but it's not just been said.
Okay, Bernard, could we add that in, that we'll have a... Yeah.
Moment. So I think it's probably best if I withdraw my proposal, Chairman, and we go with yours. Thank you.
Okay, right. Councillor Swain, have you got anything to add to the proposal itself?
I was going to try and simplify it.
Okay.
Would it not meet general approval if we added to the end of the recommendation, be approved for consideration by council?
Absolutely, yes. So I'd like to amend this to the report is agreed and goes to council with further information and drilling down on some of the issues that we've raised in relation to wharfage and parking. Does everybody agree that those terms are correct? And seconded by Councillor Durham. Okay, if we could all vote on that, please. Those in favour?
I've asked for a recorded vote.
Oh, sorry, recorded vote. Okay, Bernard, could we do a recorded vote, please?
Yes, Chairman. Who's seconding the recorded vote?
Councillor Stamp.
Councillor Stamp, thank you very much. Okay, members, I will call your names in alphabetical order. Can you please state clearly for, against, or abstain? Councillor Bassinger.
For.
Councillor Channa.
For.
Councillor Durham.
For.
Councillor Fluker.
For.
Councillor Lagan.
Against.
Councillor Shaughnessy.
For.
Councillor Stamp.
Against.
Councillor Swain.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That's 8 for the proposal, 2 against, no abstentions.
Okay, thank you very much, Bernard. Okay, thank you, members. And we're now moving on to agenda item 9, which is supplementary estimates, virements, procurement exemptions and use of reserves, 1st of June to the 31st July 22. The purpose of the report is to report virements and supplementary estimates agreed under delegated powers while they are below the levels requiring approval by the Strategy and Resources Committee, and seek approval where they are above the levels requiring approval by this committee. 1.2, to inform the Committee of Procurement exemptions that have been granted in the period, and 1.3, to report on the use of reserves during the period. We've got some recommendations. Recommendation little 1, that the virements as detailed in paragraph 3.3.1 be noted, that little 2, that the supplementary estimate as detailed in paragraph 3.4.1 be noted, and little 3, that the procurement exemptions as detailed in paragraph 3.5.1 be noted. And this report is to be given by Mr. Leslie yet again. So Chris, it's your show again, so over to you.
Okay, so this is a regular report required by the financial regulations with all items for noting. There were Virements between the Resources Directorate and Service Delivery for repairs and maintenance items. There was one supplementary estimate for health and safety reasons, and 2 procurement exemptions this time.
Okay, thank you. Now, it's recommended that this report is noted. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fluker. Okay, members, this report is now open for debate if anybody would like to raise any questions. Councillor Stamp and then Councillor Lagan and Fluker. Yes.
We don't have reports anymore for noting.
It's apparently, just being told by Mr. It's financial, and that is down for noting.
Chairman, that's not what the Constitution says. It says that reports for noting do not go to committee. They are background papers. Now, we either play by the rules or we don't, but I would propose that rather than upset Mr. Leslie, he presents his report, but perhaps we need to just visit that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fluker. We'll look into that. So, I mean, as I've taken names, I'll take questions now, and then we'll sort that for the next meeting. Right, Councillor Stamp.
Chairman, it's a comment really, not for noting. 3.5.1, it was raised at PG&A that there was the felt that the U-Fest and the Queen Baton Relay didn't have enough publication, I think. Publicity, not publication, publicity. And I think, as I found out today, we have an Essex Cabinet member who's who's Deputy Cabinet member for tourism. So what I would hope, I think Councillor Durham. Yeah. So, it was said today at the meeting. I would actually ask that it cost a lot of money. Could we make sure that that is looked into next time to make sure with Essex County Council or Councillor Durham's support, if he's still in the position, that everybody gets promoted. I didn't mean it like that.
Positive discrimination.
Madam Chair, that we do actually seriously make sure that these events that are costing us a lot of money are promoted everywhere within the district. Thank you. And it wasn't a dig at you, Councillor Durham, at all. It was about using your strengths, which was noted today at the meeting. Thank you.
I have to say that it was a really, really good event, and well done to the officers, members and public who helped put it on, but I was a bit disappointed it wasn't better reported in the press. But right, Councillor Durham, is it on this item you've got a question, or is it a separate item?
Well, it's not talking about UFest, but it's a question.
Okay, well, if Councillor Lagan, I'll do you after Councillor Durham. Councillor Durham?
I just have a question, not relating to this, but for the next part of the year. We're using a lot of resources on the current avian flu, which is growing like topsy. I'm just wondering whether that is likely to have an impact in the remainder of the year.
Chairman, so far our involvement with avian flu has been to support the official organisations that have the responsibility for dealing with that, so it's more been in staff times. There's been no physical cost, so yes, there is a cost, but it's actually staff rather than actually cash as such.
Okay, Councillor Lagan?
I forgot to push my button. There's just a couple of things that I wanted a little bit of clarification on. It's Virements 3.3.1 5014.310. It was about moving money over for essential consultancy work on the Blackwater Leisure Centre contract. Is that a contract that we have with a consultancy, or is that a spot hire from consultants, and did that have different companies come forward to support that? And the second one, there's only two, was the cost centre 121, additional budget required for essential Legionella water assessment and testing of £20,000 seems to be an extortionately large amount of money for that service on this building.
Okay, Mr. Leslie?
Yeah, so the work on the leisure contract, I think that's probably the key part. It's around the leisure contract. Obviously, we've had various negotiations around that side of it, and that's the cost of the consultancy for our support along that. It's a very expensive contract. We're also coming up to a period where we're looking to renew our options as well around that. So that's more for our costs and our advice in ensuring that we get the best deal and understanding around what's happening with the COVID and impacts around that. side of it.
Sorry, Mr. Ledge, that's not actually the question. But the question, well, I understand that, and it makes sense to use organisations for that. But is it a consultancy that we work with continually, have a contract with, or is it a spot hire contract?
Oh, sorry, apologies. I understand the question now. Yeah, yes, it's a consultant we work with continually and helped us with the original contract, so there's a good in-depth understanding of it all and the complexities and within the industry. So apologies. In terms of the Legionella watering, it's for all of our assets, so it's not just the office, it's across the piece. With that, I believe there's a lot of work to be done and undertaken around that side of it, just to make sure that we're compliant and catching up with any areas, so it's across the whole property portfolio, and officers would have gone out and followed the procurement rules when getting that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Could we note that by assent?
Noted.
Okay, thank you, members. Right, okay, moving on to agenda item 10, which is the street naming and numbering policy. The purpose of the report is to review, amend if required, and approve Maldon District Council's local policy and due diligence measures with regard to section 3.1 of the street naming and numbering policy, naming streets after people, attached as Appendix A. And 1.2, to approve the adoption of the full street naming and numbering policy. Under recommendations to the Council, little 1, that the street naming and numbering policy, Appendix A, is approved. Little 2, that a comprehensive accessible policy for use by residents, developers, officers and council, town and parish councillors is agreed, which demonstrates and clarifies the criteria applied to current street naming and numbering decisions. And little 3, that the council agree on the local policy for the use or not of people's names, including a due diligence stage undertaken via ward members on the suitable use of any names submitted by residents, officers or councillors, ward or parish, prior to them being submitted for wider consultation when naming new streets. So it is a recommended, Mr. Leslie is to report on this one, I think.
So it's a summary from myself. Yeah. The report seeks to ensure a comprehensive and accessible policy around street naming, as outlined at recommendation 2. The policy largely follows national requirements, which you can't deviate from. However, there is some discretion around naming streets after people. On page 55, at paragraph 3.1, that's the key area to highlight around discretion. This is the process the council follows, and it's written down there. Given the potential sensitivities and obviously recent publicised matters sort of nationally and globally around name changing, etc., the council only allows suggestions of surnames with local significance to be considered. It is intended the new policy is helpful for all those involved in the process.
Okay, right. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Right, okay, members, this is now open for debate. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Who knew that it'd be such a big policy with all the you actually, when you start to read it, it's absolutely massive. I'd like to, well done for the policy. I'd like to propose or do some sort of amendment, whatever your guidance is, that it goes from 14 to 28 days to be able to go to parish and town council meetings, because they're only held generally about once a month. And if you, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but whenever I get an email, it says we need this back within goodness knows how many days to respond to it as a district council, and it doesn't always go to town and parish councils. I'm not in agreement that roads are named after people who are alive, and I would also I think we need a robust challenging mechanism to say what is quantifiable if somebody's contributed to the district. What you may think somebody's contributed to the district of, maybe not what I feel or my residents feel or the residents feel. So I think we need to be a little bit more stringent on that. But other than that, I think it's absolutely fine. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments? Councillor Lagan and then Councillor Channer.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think the report it's a really good policy and a really good report. So whoever put the report together, well done and thank you. And Lagan Lane's a perfectly good name, you know.
Okay, Councillor Channer and then Councillor Fluker.
Thank you very much. I may have missed it, Madam Chairman, so I do apologise if I have. But I recognise you're not permitted to charge for the service of street naming and numbering. as the duty to provide this service is not discretionary. What about if it's a house property name? I recognise that you can't take a number off. You can have a name, which is an alias, but you have to use the number as well. But do we charge for that? Because I am aware of other authorities that actually, when you do want to apply a name to a property, there is a charge for that.
Mr. Leslie, I'm pretty sure we have a charge, but Mr. Leslie will.
I'm not sure I saw it in the report. I could have missed it though.
Right. Okay. Michelle Edgington, could you? Mrs. Edgington's got some answers relating to the process. Could you assist, please?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yes. We do charge for the addition of names to properties. The rules state that for street naming and numbering, we cannot make a profit for that service. Therefore, what we do is we recoup the administration costs associated with processing that application.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And have we got any updates on, is there an issue if we extended it from 14 to 28 days? Would that be a problem?
I don't believe that would be a problem, but Mrs. Edgington may be able to confirm whether that would be or not.
Mrs. Edgington, I think we've had a query. Would there be an issue if we extended the consultation period from 14 days to 28 days? Because it could be quite contentious.
Yes, I think that's something that we can have a look at. I think it generally is from the time that we receive the application, so I think we need to look at that to make sure it does include time with the parish councils.
Yeah.
So leave that one with me, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Councillor Fluker.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a great document. I can't remember what the last one looked like, but I'm sure there must have been a lot of learning involved around the evolution of this, because I think that if you look at page 52, little I, where there's a requirement to consult with ward councillors, and it says the parish and town councillors as well. I mean, we did have this classic situation in Southminster when, regardless of us saying so, we ended up with 2 roads with the same name, which took a little bit of unravelling, but we did get there in the end. And I think 3E and F on page 53. This is quite interesting, because in Tillingham you've got Englefield Close, named after the developer, and of course in Burnham you've got Harding's Reach, and I'm sure there's lots of other ones. So these have definitely slipped through. But Chairman, the great thing about this is that one of the finest pieces of highways is actually in my ward, and that's David Fisher Way, which I made that proposal. David was the Fisher family, old friends of mine. I've known David and Maud for a long, long time. God rest their souls. And David did a huge amount. I think he was a chairman. I haven't got my glasses on. I'm thinking about 81, 82, 83. He was chairman of this council. He was an Essex County council. He did a huge amount of work around, the farming community and supporting people. And I made the proposal that we named the Relief Road after David, because he was always in favour of something. And it went through, and we're having the official opening soon. And as Chairman, having had the suffrage of listening to us debate this, I'll make sure you're invited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fluker. Councillor Swain.
Yes, thank you. Referring to this little paragraph, second paragraph under 3.1, if Councillor Stamp was proposing that be omitted, I would second it.
Little 2, first recommendation, is that Councillor Swain?
Names of those still living, or
It's on page 55. I mean, I'm happy to hold a vote on this, but my concerns are, if you wanted to have a King Charles Road or something else, that would preclude us. So I'm not keen, but I'm happy to hold a vote if members want to hold a vote on whether that be removed. I personally would like to see it remain, but I'm happy to hold a vote on it.
Can I check clarity? So what we're doing, I propose that the people who are living is not named after a street.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got to be passed or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we hold that separately and then do the rest of the amendments afterwards. Sorry?
I'm sorry, Chairman, I was muttering.
Yeah.
Is there no statute about this? Is there? I mean, I know don't name pubs after living members of royal family.
Right. I don't think we need to. I think Mr. Leslie's just pointed out. I think this is already covered. Names of those still living or the suggested use of a full name should be avoided, but may be allowed in exceptional circumstances. So are you okay with the amendment that we keep it as it is, but we allow an extended consultation period of 14 to 28 days?
Madam Chair, only if we know what the exceptional circumstances are and the criteria. No, I'm sorry, I feel very strongly
that would
you
be.
You feel strongly about something.
Yeah,
Luca. I feel strongly about this.
That would be on a case. That would be on a case by case. I think that would be on a case by case.
What is the criteria?
That would be members' decision. That would be members on case by case, and it would have to be very, very exceptional, as in, for instance, King Charles or something. But it wouldn't be as a matter of case. So I think we'll put it to the vote with that still in, that living names are allowed in exceptional circumstances, but also that we add on that that the consultation period is extended to 28 days to allow for the consultation between parish and town councils. So have you got that, Berna?
Madam Chairman. Can the 28 days, I think the officer said to leave it with her and go and have a look. So can we do it on the basis that agree with that, providing the officer finds there's no complication or something?
Yeah. Okay, Berna. Yeah, have you got that, Berna?
Yes, that's fine.
Lovely.
Thank you, Berna.
Councillor Stamp.
No, it's not on the agreement of it. I've made the proposal that is what it should be, and I'm not prepared to back down to say that if it's not suitable, it has to be good reasons why it can't go to 28 days. I can't think of anything why it can't. And also, I'd like it. Well, why can't it?
No. Sorry, I thought we were going to extend it and do it in a time frame to make sure that all parishes got in, and then we were going to go away and put the time date on it. So basically, agree the proposal with the caveat that it goes away, and we allow enough time that it goes to parish and town councils for full consultation.
That's right, within the 28 days, but that's not what my understanding. What Councillor
It might even be longer than 28 days. I don't know. That's what the officers are going to look into.
The officer said, could she go away and look at that? I think she was in agreement with it, but she said at the end, leave it with her. Now, what I'm saying is I don't know all the rules or whatever. It might be something that makes this difficult, or it has to be longer. Yeah. So I would go with the 28 days, but subject to that being okay, or could be longer by the or what you said, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, are you okay to take the...
I'm okay with that. Yeah. But I'd like it noted somewhere that I do not agree that if somebody is alive, that a street should be named after them. I'd like it minuted. Thank you.
So even in exceptional circumstances, you don't accept
even in
it?
exceptional circumstances.
Okay, that's fine. Can we minute that, please, Berna?
Yes, of course, Chair.
Lovely. Okay, sorry.
Fluker,
yeah. Okay. Right. If we could take this to the vote now, that we agree the report with the caveat that we will look into extending the time to make sure that parish and town councils have time to go to full consultations, and that the minutes are, as requested by Councillor Stamp, are noted. All those in favour? Can we do this by assent? Yeah, okay, thank you, members. Okay, moving on to agenda item 11, which is the to agree an extension to the homeless and housing strategy from 2018 to 2023 to 2018 and 2025. We've got two recommendations. Little one, that recommendations of the Council's auditor, BDO, which advocated for the Council's homelessness and housing strategy to be extended, be noted. And little two, that the proposed amendment and 2-year extension to the homelessness and housing strategy so that officers can continue to deliver against the objectives therein be agreed. And is this Mr. Leslie again? Nope. Who's doing this one? Hang on, we've got a report.
Chairman.
Hello, Mrs. Wheatley, if you could please give your report.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, members. The Maldon District Council draft Homelessness and Housing Strategy 2018 to 2023 was first drafted in 2018 and contains a number of actions which are essential ongoing functions as well as actions yet to be delivered. The actions are set out in the strategy starting at page 58 to 65. The actions cover work done in homelessness, allocations, private sector housing and development. The purpose of the housing strategy is to explain the current housing service, explain the context under which the service is being delivered, set out departmental goals and set out the actions required in order to achieve those goals. The Housing Audit of 2021 recommended that the strategy be extended to 2025 as many of the actions are still relevant to the current housing context. Housing service resources are not focused on delivering an updated strategy in 2023. If the existing strategy is not extended, resources would need to be refocused, which could result in some disruption to daily and general service. However, failure to have an active housing strategy would create a disconnect between the corporate vision and the work of the housing team, causing officers to work toward unagreed or unexplained outcomes. The Maldon District Council Housing Strategy has had a minor amendment to align the strategy with the current corporate outcomes within the Council's corporate plan on page 8. That's it for this report. I'd like to just note that we have Mr John Swords and Mr Damien Geller on the line if there are any questions from members. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you, Mrs Wheatley. And before we go any further, I would like to thank our housing officers because we're really lucky to have Mr Geller and Mr Swords. And although I might bend their ears every now and again, they do a really good job. And as an authority, we're really lucky to have them. Now, it's recommended that this report is approved or agreed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fluker. Okay, members, does anybody have any questions on this report? Councillor Stamp?
No questions, same as you. I think they do a fantastic job and I think they deserve a special mention because they are often behind the scenes. Same as you, Madam Chair, thank you. It's a brilliant report. Very long, but brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much. Officers, I hope that you note the thanks that we give you and that item is agreed. Okay, well, do we agree that by assent, yes?
Oh, we do.
Yeah, perfect. Yes. Okay, right, moving on to, thank you very much, officers. Moving on to agenda item 12, any other items of business that the chairman of the committee decides are urgent. I have one urgent item of business, which is investment zones. This item is brought forward for consideration as local authorities leading on the expression of interest process are required to submit expressions by the 14th of October 2022. This will be dealt with under agenda item 15 in the private and confidential section of the meeting. This is an item that came late and I agreed for this to be a last meeting. Right, okay, so now we are...
Chair, can I, before you move too far, can I say another item of business that's urgent is that Councillor Lagan ran the London Marathon. And I think it would be only nice that he's acknowledged.
Well done, Councillor Lagan. Congratulations. I am impressed. Well done.
It's very kind, and I'll send you all a Just Giving link just to contribute to pancreatic cancer research.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't already done that. And Councillor Channer.
Well, two things now, Madam Chairman. No.
She did the mud race, though. Councillor Lagan, I think it's the mud race
I've
next.
done the mud race twice. Can it please be noted, Councillor Stamp is laughing, fine, that's hilarious if I did do the marathon. What I would say is, it's come up in strategy and resources, but I do actually think, does the chairman of the council know? Because I think that's probably something that ought to be reported at
Absolutely,
council.
yes, I agree entirely.
I think that's the auditor. But I did do the mud race, and I haven't done the marathon. I did actually do the London one for Maldon. Oh no, not for Maldon. It was a mind thing that I did do around the City of London once, and that nearly killed me. And I've done also the British Heart Foundation.
You've got a road named after you.
Yeah, okay. Madam Chairman, before we go on to the private and confidential stuff, which I'm going to be leaving for the first item, agenda item 14, can I just qualify regarding that and the previous one, the homelessness and housing, I believe the correct terminology is other registrable interests, having just looked and checked something up here. And also to say Councillor Boyce was going to come along tonight, but bearing in mind he's associated with the same almshouse charity I am, he felt he wouldn't because he knew I was going to be leaving the chamber. So once you've called for that private business, I'll leave the chamber, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we now go on to agenda item 13, which is private and confidential session. So I call that under section 100A part 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph, oh golly, I haven't got the paragraph numbers here. Three. Part one. Oh, here we go. 3 of part 1, schedule 12A to the Act, and that this satisfies the public interest test. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson. Okay, thank you. I'll now invite members to make any comments on the report once we've been assured that everything's turned off. Thank you for any